door barricaded, it was finally time to get some proper rest. Now, sadly, even though we slept in quite late, it seems that we were still tired from our relatively rough night. But we'd survived a day, and the new dawn brought new opportunities. A padded jacket for one, that would actually give us a bit of head protection if we had the hood up. The hat was nice, but it wasn't really doing much for our defense. We still had the problem that travelling during the afternoon would be overheated, so we'd have to take the jacket off, but it was better than nothing. In the bathroom we found our first sheet. Normally I'd have 4 or 5 of these by now, and it's always nice to have a stock of bandages, but this first one was going to be a sheet rope. Hopefully I'd find the hammer and nails I'd need to use it, but just in case it's better have one than not. And even as the gunshots continued to ring out, it seems that the downstairs bathroom had plenty of normal bandages, meaning that we wouldn't have to worry about making any out of sheets anytime soon. Though even though I say that, I still instinctively tore up that second bunch of sheets as I found them. I've never used normal bandages in Project Zomboid, so I don't know what injuries they can be used to fix, and I don't know if we can use them on the other NPCs running around. So spares are always handy. With the search of the house complete, it was time for one last stop in the kitchen. And thankfully we found some ice cream. A delicious treat that would hopefully take the edge off the depression. At the very least it would keep us full for now. So with stomach filled, it was finally time to venture forth. The sound of gunshots meant there was someone nearby, and the zombies should be somewhat driven away from the local area. Hopefully we'd find someone who could come with us, even maybe a group of people. There was a lot of shots, and normally a single person is eaten by now. The homesteader Ruth didn't seem to particularly care for the man who just wandered out of her home. I guess we will not be bringing her with us. Maybe she thought she could defend this place, and she was doing a good job of it so far. My guess that Ruth was not alone was correct, however, and this companion was far more friendly, though he seemed to be quite busy, so whilst he checked out the area, I was going to do the same. The shed was locked and it didn't look like there was any other houses nearby. This truly was a remote little location. Sadly no cars either, but a third survivor, Richard, who seems to be armed with a small pistol. I didn't know if Ruth had a gun, but maybe Richard would be a bit more friendly. And while surprising the absolute hell out of me as I thought he opened fire at me, he was actually saved my life from a zombie I hadn't noticed. And with that introduction, I had my first member of my group. Hopefully we could survive together. I was a little worried as I didn't know how much ammunition he had. I had no idea how to check, and if we were not careful, we were going to bring a horde down on us. But it was only fair to ask Ruth if she wanted to join us once more. But even though one of her protectors would be leaving, she still wasn't interested. The survivor we saw earlier, Callum, also joined our little posse, and together we had a wander down the road. It looked like it was going to be a long walk, and it was already mid-afternoon, so rather than trying to trek through the woods or along the path at night, I decided that one more day at the farmstead and rehydrating would probably be a good idea. There wasn't much food, which was worrying, but worst comes to worst, we'd eat the salt. As evening was starting to set in, Callum was desperate to get into the shed. I too was curious to see what was inside, and since the window wasn't budging, I thought I'd have a swing at the door. Now, I was confident I could knock it down if I really had to, but it'd probably destroy my baseball bat. So getting Callum out the way, I had a quick go, but I suspected this was going to take a very long time. After growing bored, I gave the window another shot. Initially tempted to smash it, it seemed that a second attempt actually got it open. It wasn't locked, merely stuck. So feeling like a moron, I climbed on in and let in everyone else, and we began to ransack the place. Callum immediately finding a revolver. 2 of us with guns would certainly help, though I don't know how much ammo he had. I, on the other hand, was not finding much. The watering can was a minor blessing though. It meant we had something that could hold water. I'd far prefer to have a drinks bottle due to the weight, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. And it looked like I couldn't give the welding mask to either Richard or Callum, which was a shame. Richard had already taken my formerly bloody leather jacket, and now had a bit of protection. There's a good chance I was going to give Callum my padded jacket as well. The constant need to take it on and off was getting on my nerves. But in the future, we'll see if we can find something else to equip our friends with. After one last night in a decent bed, it was time to leave. Setting out at 4 AM, the darkness would be our friend here. Hopefully any zombies that were still roaming would have difficulty seeing us. And also the coolness of the morning meant that I wouldn't have to worry about sweating and getting dehydrated very quickly. Still, it was worrying. I don't have the best eyesight, and if I wasn't careful, we could be quickly crept up upon. It was an hour later we finally came across our first signs of the infected. Now it was a good time to try out my companions' offensive capabilities. I still don't know how much ammo they have. I think they're supposed to have unlimited ammo, but whether or not they reload is dependent on whether or not they feel safe, meaning that all the ammo in the world wouldn't save us if they just forgot to reload. With 2 shots from Callum, the zombies were slain, though I did notice that he was taking a very long time to reload there. Richard got his own chance after the third zombie wandered out, but something that did catch my attention is there was more gunshots, ones that we weren't doing, and they were close by. But investigating could wait, for Richard's sharp shooting had meant that this jacket was in good condition, and finally I'd have some armor which would hopefully not cause me to overheat. Every little bit helped, and I was going to be the melee defender for our 2 range attackers here. A few steps down the dirt path and we're finally back onto the road, just as another survivor came out of the brush. Alan here, I suspect, was the source of those gunshots with his rifle, and he's also got a duffel bag. So I was quite happy to try and add him to our little band, and he seemed to be willing to join us. Now we had strength in numbers, and I thought we could do quite well for ourselves. Though even as our company grew, the depression from the long, tiring, boring march was setting in. But hopefully a little bit of chocolate would take the edge off it. I was getting worried. Now, being sad and depressed doesn't have any current effects, but it can exasperate other conditions, I believe. At this point though, I started practically kicking myself. I'd finally found some cars, and they were utterly wrecked. These weren't going anywhere. But the biggest problem I had is I simply couldn't remember how to examine the boot. And after a lot of right clicking and trying to look at the mouse options, it wasn't until some time later, long after this had passed, I remembered that you have to press E on these. You can't use the actual context menu to search them, unless you plan on smashing the windows. It was now 8:30 and we were still walking. I hadn't seen a zombie in hours. No hide or hair of them, not even a sound of moans or rustle in the brush. I was getting a little wary that we were going to find them in a huge horde somewhere, or we were going to have a problem. But with the companions I was getting a little reckless, taking some time to sprint every so often. I didn't want to reach wherever I was going exhausted, but I was worrying that unless we found a house soon, I was going to have to do desperate actions in order to get food. We only had maybe 1 or 2 cans left, and one of those was dog food, and I'm sure that would not help the depression. 10 o'clock and still nothing encountered. If it was possible, I was going both stir crazy and completely on edge. I was almost hoping for a swarm of zombies just to release the tension, and hopefully we could just work out some of the aggression. So when we finally came across another band of zombies and a crashed car at 11:10, it was somewhat of a mixed blessing. It was bigger than I liked, but one of them was carrying a duffel bag, a big improvement over my small satchel. The satchel had served me well so far, but I could easily give it to one of my companions, after clearing it out of my own belongings, of course. I was a little worried we'd draw in more zombies, and again, I didn't quite trust my companions to do well. They'd shown they were reasonable shots, but occasionally they'd down a zombie in one shot, and other times it took 4 to 5. And in the heat of the moment, that could be a massive problem, especially if they panicked and forgot to reload. Still, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And this time I'd gained quite a bit. I now had a new pair of boots as my shoes were worn out from stomping on zombies. We would have soon a duffel bag, and the deputy was very tempting. If I washed their jacket, I think I'd have a decent piece of armour, which I actually like the look of as well. If the shirt and trousers were in better condition, then those too would have been taken. But at least I got a nightstick, and with that, I now had a bit of reassurance that I had an alternative weapon should my baseball bat break. But none of these new acquisitions would help if we didn't find shelter soon. Thirst and hunger were setting in, and exhaustion was beginning its inevitable crawl. Hopefully this road would lead somewhere, other than just into more zombies. The taunting presence of yet another broken down car didn't help either. This car was in bad condition and probably wouldn't be going anywhere. Or if it did, it would be going at a crawl, but we didn't have a key, and I didn't feel like injuring myself and breaking in. Again, this is somewhat frustrating. In hindsight, I probably should have just smashed the window and checked for food and water. By 2 o'clock, hunger was becoming too much of a problem. I didn't really want to eat my canned tomatoes, but it was either that or the dog food, and I'd already decided I was eating that last. But at least it would hydrate me and keep us going for a bit longer. I was becoming desperate though. We needed shelter, we needed somewhere to at least check, and whether or not we found anything, just a tap would have done for some water, and maybe just eating condiments. In a way, this was reminding me of my student years. Very little to eat, and occasionally just having nothing to eat but condiments because food is scarce in the house. Though in my case, it was because my previous housemates would throw out my food or eat it themselves, the bastards. It was always the girls that would do it too. They were usually the worst, and they were so damn petty. Perhaps I was still reminiscing about this, as at 3 o'clock we finally found civilization. I really should have paid attention to my 2 favourite sayings: desperation as a poor advisor, and overconfidence as a slow and insidious killer. Yes, I thought we could take these zombies. It was a bigger haul than the one at the cars, but not by much. And we had better gear now. So, I thought we'd take the risk. Not to mention there was a big backpack on one of the military-looking zombies, and a rifle on the police zombie. But it looked like my companions were not doing as well as the shooting this time. Shots were missing, reloading was taking longer, and the zombies were fast, and much closer than I realised. Then the worst case scenario happened. Having not realised that my companions would not change to melee automatically, it looked like Alan got himself surrounded and then eaten. Whilst I was trying to save him, I too got somewhat swarmed. Richard and Callum deciding to just panic and walk around in circles. Potentially I should have told them to spread out and get away. I think the AI was just confused when trying to stay close to me, whilst at the same time trying to gain space to reload. I am going to have to look a bit more into the NPC mod, but I was doing a fair bit of fighting and I was doing okay, but I couldn't defend everybody. And whilst trying to save my friends, every time I kept pushing myself deeper into danger. Again, I should have played merciless and run away, but oh well. Lessons learned. With the AI's aggression, sneaking really wasn't an option. So, again, I think I'm just going to have to learn how to manage them a little better if I try this again as a small group. I rather enjoyed having a bunch of gun-happy nuts with me. So, let's see how I do next time, and thank you for watching.